Ukraine's president saying that a U.S. citizen was killed in Russia's deadliest attack on Kyiv in nearly a year. He says the American was among 15 people killed in the strikes on Ukraine's capital overnight, more than 130 others injured. Rescue crews racing to search for survivors at this 9-story apartment building had a whole section just wiped out. A video from a photojournalist shows people racing to take shelter. They're under an underpass there during the bombardment. ABC News' Patrick Reevell has more for us from London. And look, Patrick, what do we know, first of all, about the attacks? And again, this report here that a U.S. citizen was killed.
Hi, Kana. Yeah, as you say, President Zelenskyy earlier said that a U.S. citizen was among the at least 15 people killed in that huge Russian attack across Ukraine overnight. We don't have any more details about that U.S. citizen yet. They have not been named. But this strike, as you said, was already the deadliest in nearly a year on Kyiv, and it's really one of the worst Russian air attacks on the Ukrainian capital since the start of the war. President Zelenskyy saying that at least 30 areas of the capital were hit, over nearly 150 buildings damaged, 130 people injured in these strikes across the country. Russia launching nearly 500 drones and missiles across Ukraine, dozens of them targeting Kyiv, the city really being barraged all night. Now, Ukrainian officials are linking this attack potentially to the G7 summit that is being held in Canada. They say that it's an attempt to try and basically show to Ukraine and its allies that it's powerless. But I think clearly what Russia's trying to do here is to try and increase pressure on Ukraine by terrorizing the civilian population, Kana.
Well, President Zelenskyy was at the G7 summit in Canada. President Trump, of course, left early yesterday, and President Trump said, suggested that Russia should not have been expelled from the G summit for invading Ukraine. What does this push mean for these peace talks?
Yeah, Kana, I think, what's been going on at the G7 summit has been very telling in terms of where the efforts to reach peace in Ukraine stand. As you say, President Zelenskyy is now there today, but President Trump, of course, left early. But he did choose to open his remarks at the G7 by saying that it had been a mistake to expel Russia from the G7 back in 2014. And that was Russia was expelled because of its invasion of Ukraine back then. He also seemed to again pull back on his previous threats to impose more sanctions on Russia if it doesn't negotiate properly. So I think what we're seeing there clearly is that President Trump does not want to put pressure on Russia, despite again the appeals from President Zelenskyy today to do so. And while that is happening, it means that peace is further away than ever, really. And I think we're going to see more and more of these types of attacks on Kyiv. Kana.
Wow, it's hard to think about after all this time. All right, Patrick, our thanks to you.